The jungle world turned slowly beneath the research vessel, green and wild and untouched. Dr. Hana Kim pressed her hand against the observation window and watched the clouds drift over endless forests. She had been studying alien creatures for 10 years, but this planet made her heart beat faster. The scanners showed life everywhere. Big life. "Those readings can't be right," Captain Bora Choi said behind her. She was looking at a data screen with a frown on her face. Nothing that big should be moving that fast. Hana turned from the window. "The scanners are working fine. I checked them twice. Whatever is down there, it's massive and it hunts in packs." Lieutenant Tae Park whistled low. He was the security officer, and he had seen many dangerous worlds. Packs of elephant-sized predators? That's not good. "That's incredible," Hana corrected him with a smile. "Think about it. Pack hunters need intelligence. They need to communicate and plan together. These creatures might be smart." Dr. Yuna Lee looked up from her station. She was the marine biologist, but she had studied land animals too. Smart predators are dangerous predators. The Galactic Consortium warned us about getting too close to megafauna. Remember the colony on Theta 9? Everyone remembered. 50 people dead because they had tried to domesticate creatures they didn't understand. The consortium had made strict rules after that. Humans were not allowed to interfere with dangerous wildlife. Observe only. Never touch. Never help. Never get involved. "I'm not suggesting we pet them," Hana said. "I just want to observe them properly." From the ground. "With proper equipment," Captain Bora shook her head. "Too risky." "Captain, please." Hana walked closer. "We came here to study life. Real study means more than scanning from orbit. We need to see how they behave, how they hunt, how they communicate. This could be the discovery of the decade." Bora looked at the data again. She was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. "All right, but you take a full security team, and if anything goes wrong, you beam up immediately." "No arguments," Hana grinned. "No arguments." 2 days later, Hana stood in the jungle with mud on her boots and wonder in her eyes. The trees here were enormous, their trunks as wide as small houses. Vines hung down like curtains. The air was hot and wet and filled with strange sounds. Insects buzzed. Birds called. Something large moved in the distance, making the ground tremble slightly. Tay checked his weapon for the 3rd time. "I don't like this. We're exposed here." "We're fine," Hana said. She was setting up cameras on the trees. Small devices that would record everything. The creatures avoid open areas during the day. They hunt at dawn and dusk. Yuna was unpacking scientific equipment from storage boxes. "How do you know their hunting schedule?" "I've been watching the satellite footage for weeks. They have patterns, routines." Hana pointed toward a cluster of large rocks in the distance. "See that area? That's a den site. I've seen the same group return there every night. They worked through the afternoon setting up a camp that was hidden in the trees. The camp was small but comfortable, with sleeping bags and research equipment and a portable shield generator that would keep animals away. The cameras were positioned to watch the den site from multiple angles. As the sun began to set, Hana sat at the monitoring station and waited. The screen showed different views of the jungle. Everything was still and green. Then, as darkness crept in, movement. "There," Hana whispered, though there was no one nearby to hear. The others were in their tents, resting. A creature emerged from the rocks. It was huge, easily 12 feet tall at the shoulder. 6 legs carried its massive body with surprising grace. Its skin was covered in dark scales that gleamed in the fading light. The head was large and intelligent-looking, with eyes that seemed to notice everything. Hana had seen the scanner data, but seeing the creature in reality was different. It was beautiful, powerful. And then 3 smaller shapes tumbled out of the den behind it. Cubs. The creature was a mother. Hana leaned closer to the screen. The cubs were playful, rolling and jumping around their mother's legs. They were the size of large dogs, their scales lighter in color than the adult. The mother watched them with what looked like patience, occasionally nudging one with her snout when it wandered too far. Then the mother did something remarkable. She picked up a thick branch with her front claws and broke it into smaller pieces. She arranged the pieces in a pattern on the ground. The cubs gathered around and seemed to study the arrangement. After a moment, the mother scattered the pieces and made a different pattern. "She's teaching them," Hana breathed. "She's actually teaching them tool use, pattern recognition, teaching behavior." These were signs of high intelligence, maybe even sapience. The consortium classified species into categories based on intelligence. These creatures might be on the edge of full sapience, the beginning of civilization. Over the next week, Hana barely slept. She watched the creatures constantly, recording everything. She gave them a name, Vareth Titans, after the planet. The mother was clearly the leader of a small pack. Sometimes other adults would visit, bringing food or playing with the cubs. They communicated with complex sounds, deep rumbles, and high chirps that seemed to carry meaning. The cubs were her favorite to watch. Each one had a different personality. The largest was bold and adventurous, always exploring. The middle one was cautious, hanging back and observing before acting. The smallest had an injured leg, an old wound that made it limp. But the little one was clever, finding ways to keep up with its siblings despite the disability. Tay joined her at the monitoring station one evening. "You've been watching them for hours. You need rest. I will. Soon." Hana pointed at the screen. "Look at that." The mother just showed the cubs how to identify safe water. She led them to 3 different streams and let them drink from only one. She was teaching them which water is clean. "They're impressive," Tay admitted. "But Hana, you're getting attached." "I can see it." "Remember the protocols. I'm not attached. I'm observing. You named them. I heard you talking to Yuna about bold, shy, and little." Hana felt her face get warm. "Those are just identifiers for research purposes." Tay smiled sadly. "Sure they are. Just be careful. The consortium has those rules for a reason. We can't get involved with the wildlife here, no matter how intelligent they seem." That night, Hana lay in her sleeping bag and thought about Ty's words. He was right, of course. The rules existed because humans had a tendency to see other creatures as friends, as family, even when those creatures were dangerous. It had led to disasters before. People had died. But watching the Titan mother with her cubs, seeing the gentleness in how she handled them, the patience in how she taught them, Hana couldn't help but feel a connection. Mothers were mothers, no matter what species. The drive to protect, to teach, to nurture, that was universal. She pulled out her datapad and made notes. Tomorrow she would try to record their vocalizations more clearly. She wanted to understand their language if they had one. She wanted to know everything about them. Outside, in the dark jungle, the Titans settled into their den for the night. The mother curled around her cubs, keeping them warm and safe. Above them, the stars shone bright and distant, unaware that soon everything would change. Soon a disaster would come that would test everything Hana believed about herself, about her species, and about the rules she was supposed to follow. But for now, there was only peace. The quiet jungle, the sleeping creatures, and a human scientist who was learning that sometimes the most important discoveries aren't about data and facts. Sometimes they're about understanding that all life, no matter how different, shares the same fundamental needs: safety, family, love. The ground shook first. Just a small tremor that made the coffee in Hana's cup ripple like tiny waves. She looked up from her datapad, confused. Then the world exploded into chaos. The tremor became a roar. The earth buckled and heaved like a living thing. Hana was thrown from her chair, hitting the ground hard. Equipment crashed around her. The monitoring screens went dark. Outside, trees screamed as they split and fell. "Earthquake!" Tay's voice shouted from somewhere. "Everyone out of the tents!" Hana crawled toward the tent opening. The ground wouldn't stay still. It rolled and pitched, making every movement difficult. She finally got outside and saw her team scattered across the camp, all on the ground, all holding on to whatever they could find. The shaking went on forever. In reality, it was probably only 2 minutes, but it felt like hours. When it finally stopped, Hana lay on the ground, breathing hard, her heart hammering in her chest. "Is everyone okay?" Bora's voice came through the communicator, crackling with static. She was still on the ship in orbit. Tay did a quick check of the team. "We're alive. Bruised but alive. The camp is destroyed, though. Equipment is everywhere." Hana got to her feet slowly. Her leg hurt where she had hit it, and her communicator was cracked. She looked around at the damage. Their carefully organized camp was now a disaster area. Tents were collapsed. Equipment was scattered and broken. One of the shield generators was sparking, definitely broken. Then she heard it. A deep, terrible groaning sound. She turned toward the den site. "No," she whispered. The rocks that formed the Titan den were collapsing. Huge boulders shifted and fell, tumbling down like children's blocks. Dust rose in thick clouds. And from inside the collapsing den came a sound that made Hana's blood run cold. A roar of pain and fear. "The Titans," she said. "They're trapped." Yuna grabbed her arm. "Hana, we can't help them. We need to focus on getting ourselves to safety." As if to emphasize her words, a new smell reached them. Smoke. Hana looked toward the horizon and saw orange flames rising in the distance. The earthquake had started fires across the jungle. With everything so dry, the fires would spread fast. "Captain Bora," Tay spoke into his communicator. "We need emergency extraction. Multiple fires approaching our position." The response came back broken and unclear. "For interference. Solar flare. Transporters offline. 12 hours. Hold position." "Repeat that, Captain." "You're breaking up." "Get to River Valley. Extraction. 12 hours." The communicator went dead. Tay tried several more times but got only static. Solar flare must be interfering with communications. "We're on our own until the interference clears." Another tremor shook the ground, smaller than the first but still frightening. In the distance, more trees fell. The fires were getting closer. Hana could see flames through the trees now, bright and hungry. "We need to move," Yuna said. "Head for the river valley, like the captain said. The fire won't cross water." The team started gathering what they could carry. Emergency supplies, water, medical kits. They moved quickly, knowing every second counted. Hana helped pack, but her eyes kept going back to the collapsed den. The roaring had stopped. Now there were only high-pitched sounds. "Crying sounds, Tay," she said quietly. "Do you hear that?" He listened. His face went pale. "The cubs." They got out. Through the dust and smoke, small shapes emerged from the rubble. 3 cubs, covered in dirt and ash, crying for their mother. The smallest one was limping badly, dragging its injured leg. They stumbled around the collapsed rocks, calling out with desperate chirps and whines. "Their mother is buried in there," Hana said. Her chest felt tight. "They're alone." "Hana, we have to go," Yuna said firmly. "The fire is coming, but the cubs are not our responsibility. You know the protocols. We don't interfere." Hana watched the cubs. The largest one, Bold, was trying to dig at the rocks with its small claws. The middle one, Shy, was circling the collapsed site, calling and calling. And Little, the smallest with the bad leg, was just sitting and crying, a sound so sad it hurt to hear. "Let's move," Tay said. He gently pulled Hana's arm. "Come on." The team started walking away from the camp toward the river valley. Hana followed, but she kept looking back. The cubs were getting smaller in the distance. The fire was getting closer to them. They didn't understand the danger. They only knew their mother was gone and they were alone and scared. The team walked for an hour through the damaged jungle. Trees were down everywhere, making the path difficult. Smoke made breathing hard. Hana's communicator was completely dead now, broken beyond repair. Her leg throbbed where she had bruised it. Then came another tremor, not as strong as the first, but enough to knock down more weakened trees. One fell across their path, forcing them to climb over it. As Hana climbed, her injured leg slipped. She fell, tumbling down an embankment she hadn't seen in the smoke. She hit the bottom hard, the wind knocked out of her. Pain shot through her leg, worse now. When she tried to stand, the world spun. "Hana!" Tay's voice came from above, but it sounded distant, far away. She tried to respond, but couldn't get enough air. The smoke was thicker here in the low ground. She heard the team calling for her, but the smoke was so thick she couldn't see them. She crawled forward, trying to get back up the embankment, but her injured leg wouldn't support her weight. More sounds. Crashing. Another tree falling. Voices shouting. Then silence. Hana lay there breathing hard, trying to clear her head. When she finally managed to sit up, she was alone. The smoke had separated her from her team. She tried calling out, but her voice was weak and the jungle sound swallowed it up. She checked her supplies. A small medical kit, 1 bottle of water, some emergency rations, her broken communicator, not much to survive on. The fire was still coming. She could hear it now, a crackling roar behind her. She had to move. Had to find the river valley. But which direction? The smoke made it impossible to see the sun. Everything looked the same. She picked a direction and started limping forward, using a fallen branch as a walking stick. Every step hurt. Smoke filled her lungs. She was lost, injured and alone on an alien planet with fires closing in. After what felt like hours of walking, she stopped to rest against a tree. Her water was half gone. Her leg was swelling. She needed to find the river soon or she wouldn't survive the night. That's when she heard it. That high-pitched crying sound. The same sound from the den? No, she thought. It can't be, but it was. Through the smoke came three small shapes, stumbling and scared. The cubs had wandered away from the collapsed den, probably fleeing the fire just like she was. And now they were here just as lost as she was. Little, the smallest one, saw her first. It stopped and stared with wide, frightened eyes. The cub was covered in ash. Its bad leg was bleeding now, probably injured worse during the earthquake. It cried out, a sound of pure desperation. Hana's training said to stay away. The protocols were clear. Don't interfere. These were dangerous predators, even as babies. Their mother might still be alive, might come looking for them. Getting involved could end badly. But then Little took a step toward her and collapsed. The cub lay there in the ash, too weak to go on crying quietly. Hana looked at the cub. She looked at the orange glow of fire through the trees getting closer. She thought about protocols and rules and all the good reasons to walk away. Then she thought about mothers and children and what it meant to be human. She made her choice. Hana limped over to the collapsed cub. She knelt down beside it, ignoring the pain in her own leg. It's okay, she said softly, even though it couldn't understand her words. It's going to be okay. She looked at the fire line, then at the three terrified cubs. She couldn't save them all. She couldn't even save herself properly with her injured leg, but she had to try. Because that's what humans did, even when it was stupid, even when it broke the rules, even when it might get them killed, humans helped. Come on, she said to the cubs. She started walking, moving away from the fire. Follow me. I'll get you somewhere safe. Bold looked at her with suspicious eyes. Shy hung back, uncertain. But Little, too weak to be afraid anymore, let Hana pick it up. The cub was heavier than it looked, warm and trembling. It clung to her jacket with small claws, burying its face against her shoulder. And just like that, everything changed. Hana was no longer just trying to survive. She was responsible for three alien creatures who trusted her to save them. The protocols didn't matter anymore. The rules didn't matter. All that mattered was getting these cubs to safety. She adjusted Little in her arms and started walking. Behind her, after a moment's hesitation, Bold and Shy followed. Together, the strange group moved through the burning jungle, heading toward a river valley that Hana hoped she could find. Above them, the smoke rose into the sky like a signal, a marker, a beacon that would either lead to rescue or disaster. Only time would tell which. Little's claws dug into Hana's jacket as she walked. The cub was scared and hurt, but it held on tight. Its warm breath tickled her neck. Behind her, she could hear Bold and Shy following, their footsteps soft on the ash-covered ground. The smoke was getting thicker. Hana pulled her shirt up over her nose and mouth, trying to filter the air. Her eyes watered and stung. Every breath burned in her lungs. The fire was getting closer. She could feel the heat of it now, like standing too close to an oven. She had to find water. The river valley couldn't be far. At least she hoped it wasn't far. Her sense of direction was confused by the smoke, and her injured leg was getting worse. Each step was harder than the last. Little made a small sound against her shoulder, a whimper of pain. Hana adjusted her grip, trying to hold the cub more comfortably. I know it hurts, she said softly. We'll rest soon. I promise. They walked for another hour, maybe two. Time felt strange in the smoke and heat. Hana's water bottle was empty now. Her throat was so dry it hurt to swallow. The cubs were panting, their tongues hanging out. They needed water as desperately as she did. Then through the smoke she heard it. The sound of running water. There, she breathed. New energy filled her tired body. Come on, just a little further. She pushed through the last line of trees and stumbled onto a rocky bank. Below her, a river ran clear and cold. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Hana half walked, half slid down the bank, holding Little carefully. When she reached the water's edge, she set the cub down gently and collapsed beside it. Her hands shook as she cupped water and drank. It was cool and clean and wonderful. Bold and Shy rushed past her and dove into the shallow water, drinking and splashing. Little tried to follow, but couldn't stand on its injured leg. The cub cried out in frustration. Hold on, Hana said. She crawled over and helped Little into the water, supporting the cub so it could drink. Little lapped up water eagerly, making happy chirping sounds between gulps. When they had all drunk their fill, Hana pulled out her medical kit. She had basic supplies, enough to treat her own leg and maybe help Little too. She cleaned the cub's wound first, being gentle. Little flinched but didn't try to bite or scratch. It seemed to understand she was helping. Hana wrapped the wound with gauze and secured it with tape. It wasn't a perfect job, but it was better than nothing. "There you go," she said. "That should help." Little looked at its bandaged leg, then up at Hana. The cub made a soft trilling sound and rubbed its head against her hand. Hana felt her heart squeeze. This tiny creature trusted her completely. She treated her own leg next, wrapping it to support the bruising. It helped a little. At least she could walk without quite so much pain. The fire was still burning behind them, but the river created a barrier. They were safe here for now. Hana looked around at the valley. Tall cliffs rose on both sides. The river cut through the middle. There were caves in the cliff faces, dark openings that might provide shelter. "We'll stay here tonight," she told the cubs. They couldn't understand her words, but her tone seemed to calm them. "In the morning, my team will find us. Everything will be okay." She hoped she was telling the truth. As the sun began to set, painting the smoke-filled sky orange and red, Hana gathered what she could find for a camp. Dry wood from driftwood along the river, leaves for bedding. She managed to start a small fire using a striker from her medical kit. The flame was tiny but comforting. The cubs gathered around the fire with her. They were tired and scared, missing their mother. Bold kept making low calls, waiting for an answer that never came. Shy pressed close to Bold, seeking comfort, and Little stayed right beside Hana, its small body warm against her side. Hana pulled out her emergency rations. They were meant for humans, but she had to try. She broke off pieces and offered them to the cubs. Bold sniffed it suspiciously and turned away. Shy wouldn't even look at it. But Little, desperate and hungry, took a tiny bite. The cub chewed slowly, then swallowed. It waited a moment, then took another bite. Soon all three cubs were eating the rations, not because they tasted good, but because they were hungry enough not to care. "Good," Hana said encouragingly. "Eat, you need strength." As darkness fell completely, the temperature dropped. The jungle was hot during the day, but cold at night. Hana had no blanket, no tent, nothing to keep warm except her fire. She fed more wood to the flames and huddled close. The cubs pressed against her from all sides. Little was still on her left, head resting on her lap. Bold curled up on her right. Shy lay across her feet like a warm, scaly blanket. Together they created a pile of shared warmth. Hana stroked Little's head gently. The cub's scales were smooth and warm. "Your mother is out there somewhere," she whispered. "Maybe she got out. Maybe she's looking for you right now." She wanted to believe it, but she had seen the rocks fall. The collapse had been massive. Even if the mother had survived, she might be too injured to search. Or she might think her cubs were dead. Hana looked up at the stars visible through gaps in the smoke. Up there, the bright horizon orbited. Her team was probably going crazy with worry. Captain Bora would be organizing search parties. Tay would be refusing to give up. They would find her. Eventually, she just had to keep the cubs alive until then. The night was long and filled with strange sounds. Things moving in the darkness, the crackle of distant fires, the rush of the river. Hana dozed but never really slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she jerked awake, afraid something was wrong. Morning came slowly, the sun fighting through the smoke. Hana's whole body ached. Her leg throbbed. Her throat was raw from smoke. But she was alive. And so were the cubs. Bold woke first, stretching and yawning. The cub wandered to the river to drink. Shy followed, staying close to Bold. Little tried to stand, but its injured leg wouldn't hold weight. The cub cried out in frustration. "Easy," Hana said. She helped Little to the water, supporting its weight. After drinking, she checked the bandage. It was dirty but still secure. The wound looked better, less swollen. They needed food. Hana's rations were gone. The cubs were hungry again, making whining sounds and looking at her hopefully. She had to find them something to eat. She explored the riverbank looking for anything edible. She found some fruits growing on bushes near the water. She didn't know if they were safe for the cubs, but she tried offering one to Bold. The cub sniffed it, then bit into it eagerly. Juice ran down its chin. Bold chirped happily and grabbed another fruit. Shy and Little joined in, eating the fruit like it was the best thing ever. Hana smiled despite her exhaustion. At least they wouldn't starve. As the day went on, something remarkable started happening. The cubs began responding to her. When she said come, Bold would trot over. When she said stay, Shy would sit and wait. They didn't understand the words, but they understood her tone, her gestures, and they trusted her. When a loud sound came from the jungle, all three cubs ran to her for protection. When Little got scared of something in the water, it climbed right up her arms to her shoulders, clinging there like a frightened child. Hana found herself talking to them constantly. "It's okay. You're safe. I won't let anything hurt you." The words were as much for herself as for them. That afternoon, Bold did something amazing. The cub had been watching birds in a tree, the way predators watch prey. Suddenly, Bold picked up a rock with its front claws and threw it at the tree. The rock hit a fruit, knocking it down. Bold chirped proudly and ate the fruit. "You figured that out yourself?" Hana asked, amazed. "You're a smart one." Bold did it again, knocking down more fruit for the others. Tool use, problem solving. This cub was learning and adapting. By the second night, they had fallen into a routine. Gather fruit. Drink from the river. Rest during the hot afternoon. Huddle together when night fell. The cubs played sometimes, chasing each other along the riverbank, forgetting their fear for brief moments. Little couldn't run, but it watched its siblings with happy chirps. Hana's leg was improving slowly. The swelling was going down. She could put more weight on it. But she was getting weaker from lack of proper food. The fruits were something, but not enough. She needed protein. Real nutrition. On the third day, Bold brought her something. The cub dropped a dead fish at her feet, looking proud. It was a gift. Bold had caught food and was sharing it. Hana's eyes filled with tears. This creature, this alien predator, was taking care of her the same way she was taking care of it. They were a family now, bound by need and survival and something deeper, something that crossed the line between species. She cooked the fish over her fire and shared it with the cubs. It tasted wonderful. As they ate together, Hana realized something important. The consortium was wrong. The protocols were wrong. Connection between species wasn't dangerous. It wasn't stupid. It was natural. It was right. Mothers protected children no matter what species. The strong helped the weak. That wasn't human foolishness. That was life itself, the fundamental rule that made survival possible. As night fell again, the cubs curled up with her. Little was on her shoulder now, its favorite spot. The cub's breathing was soft and even, peaceful, safe. Hana looked up at the stars one more time. "We're going to be okay," she whispered to the sleeping cubs. "All of us, together." She didn't know if rescue would come tomorrow or the next day or the day after. On the fourth morning, Hana woke to silence. Not the peaceful silence of safety, but the tense silence of something wrong. The jungle sounds had stopped. No birds calling. No insects buzzing. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. The cubs felt it too. Bold stood rigid, nostrils flaring. Shy pressed against the cliff wall. Little, still perched on Hana's shoulder, made a tiny scared sound. Then Hana heard it. A deep rumble from far away. Not thunder. Not an earthquake. Something else. Something alive. "Oh no," she whispered. The ground began to vibrate with heavy footsteps, rhythmic, getting closer. Something massive was approaching through the jungle. Bold suddenly made a sound Hana had never heard before. A specific call, high and urgent. Shy joined in, making the same sound. And Little, right beside Hana's ear, called out too. It was a cub's cry for its mother. The footsteps got louder, faster, trees cracked and fell in the distance. Whatever was coming was big enough to push through the jungle like it wasn't there. Hana's heart hammered in her chest. She knew what was coming. She had known, deep down, that this moment would arrive eventually. The mother. The Titan mother had survived, and she was coming for her cubs. The rational part of Hana's brain said to run. Put the cubs down and run. Get to safety before the angry mother arrived. But her legs wouldn't move. She couldn't abandon the cubs now. Not after everything they had been through together. "It's okay," she told the cubs, though her voice shook. "Your mother is coming." "That's good. That's what we wanted." The trees at the edge of the clearing shook. Branches snapped. Then she emerged. The Titan mother was even bigger than Hana remembered. 12 feet tall at the shoulder, maybe more. Her scales were scratched and dusty from digging out of the collapsed den. One of her front legs had a bleeding wound, but her eyes were fierce and focused. Those eyes locked onto Hana. Time seemed to stop. The mother stood at the edge of the clearing, her massive body tense. Her lips pulled back, showing teeth like daggers. A low growl rumbled from her chest, making the air vibrate. The cubs ran toward their mother, calling out joyfully. Bold reached her first, rubbing against her leg. Shy followed, chirping and dancing around her feet. They were so happy, so relieved, but Little didn't run. The injured cub stayed on Hana's shoulder, chirping but not moving. Its bad leg was still bandaged. It couldn't run even if it wanted to. The mother's eyes followed her smallest cub. She saw it perched on this strange, small alien creature, saw the bandage, saw how Little clung to Hana with trust. The growling stopped. The mother tilted her massive head, studying Hana with intense focus. Hana's throat was so dry she could barely breathe. She was frozen, every instinct screaming at her to run but knowing it was pointless. This creature could catch her in 2 steps. If the mother wanted her dead, she was dead. Slowly, carefully, Hana raised her hands. Palms out, a universal gesture of peace. I didn't hurt them, she said quietly. Her voice cracked. I kept them safe. That's all I did. The mother took a step forward, then another. The ground shook with each footfall. She was close now. Close enough that Hana could see the intelligence in her eyes. This wasn't a simple animal. This was a thinking, feeling being. A mother who had lost her children and was now finding them with a stranger. Little chirped again from Hana's shoulder. The cub reached out toward its mother with one small paw, making the same trilling sound it had made when Hana helped it. A sound of affection, trust. The mother's expression changed. The aggression faded from her eyes, replaced by something else. Something that looked almost like wonder. Then the mother did something Hana would never forget. The massive creature lowered her head to the ground, not in attack, in submission, in respect. The deep rumbling sound that came from her chest wasn't a growl. It was something else, something that sounded almost like gratitude. Tears filled Hana's eyes. You understand, she whispered. You know I helped them. The mother raised her head and looked at Hana directly. Their eyes met. 2 mothers, 2 species, 1 moment of perfect understanding. The mother made a soft sound, gentle and encouraging. Little responded, finally climbing down from Hana's shoulder. The cub limped toward its mother, dragging its bandaged leg. The mother lowered her head and nuzzled Little carefully, examining the bandage with gentle touches. Bold and Shy pressed close to their mother, chirping and calling. The family was reunited, safe, together. Hana took a step back, giving them space. This was their moment. She had done her job. The cubs were with their mother now. Everything was as it should be. But the mother made another sound, different this time. A rumbling call. Bold and Shy responded, moving to stand beside their mother. Little limped over to join them. Then the mother did something that made no sense. She positioned her massive body between Hana and the jungle. Facing outward, guarding. What are you doing? Hana asked, confused. The mother glanced back at her, then returned to watching the jungle. Her posture was protective, defensive. She was guarding Hana. The cubs settled down near their mother, but they kept looking at Hana. Bold made a happy chirp. Shy trilled softly. Little, despite being reunited with its mother, kept glancing at Hana like it was making sure she was still there. Hana slowly sat down on a rock, her legs shaking from adrenaline. The danger had passed. The mother wasn't going to attack. Instead, she was protecting her. This incredible, impossible thing was happening. They stayed like that for hours, the mother standing guard, the cubs playing near her feet. Hana resting on her rock, watching them. It felt surreal. Peaceful. Right. As the sun moved across the sky, Hana noticed movement at the tree line. She tensed, but the mother had already seen it. She made a warning rumble, low and threatening. Then Tay's voice called out, Hana, is that you? Tay! She jumped up, wincing at the pain in her leg. Yes, I'm here. Tay emerged from the trees with Yuna close behind. They both stopped dead when they saw the scene. The massive Titan mother, the 3 cubs. Hana standing calmly in the middle of it all. Don't move, Tay said urgently, his hand going to his weapon. We'll get you out of there. No. Hana said quickly. Don't shoot. She's not a threat. She's protecting me. Protecting you? Yuna's voice was full of disbelief. Hana, that thing could kill you with one swipe. But she won't. Look at her. Really look. Tay and Yuna watched carefully. The mother wasn't in an attack posture. She was calm, alert but not aggressive. The cubs were playing, completely relaxed. And Hana was standing there unafraid. Little saw the newcomers and made a happy chirp. The cub limped over to Hana, and to Tay and Yuna's amazement climbed right up her legs and arms to perch on her shoulder again, its favorite spot. The mother watched this but didn't interfere. She simply rumbled softly, a sound of approval. "I don't believe this," Yuna breathed. "Are you recording this, Tay?" "Every second," he confirmed, his camera implant active. "The consortium will never believe it otherwise." "The cubs were trapped after the earthquake," Hana explained. "Their mother was buried. I found them and kept them safe. Fed them, protected them, and when the mother found us, she understood what I had done." "You broke every protocol," Tay said, but there was no anger in his voice. Only awe. "I know, but I couldn't leave them to die." "Would you have?" Tay was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "No, I wouldn't have." The mother made another sound, this one directed at Hana. Little chirped in response, still on her shoulder. The cub rubbed its head against Hana's cheek affectionately. "I think she's saying thank you," Yuna said softly, through her cub. Hana reached up and gently stroked Little's head. The cub trilled happily. "You're welcome," she said to the mother. "They're beautiful children. You should be proud." The mother rumbled again, a sound that felt like agreement. As the sun began to set, a shuttle appeared overhead. Captain Bora had come personally for the rescue. The shuttle landed in the clearing, its engines loud in the quiet valley. Bora stepped out and froze, just like the others had.
"What in the galaxy?" "It's a long story, Captain," Hana said.
But the short version is, protocols aren't always right. Sometimes compassion matters more than rules. Little climbed down from Hana's shoulder one last time. The cub limped back to its mother, joining its siblings. The family pressed together, whole again. Hana took a step toward the shuttle, then stopped. She turned back to the mother. The massive creature was watching her. Hana put her hand over her heart, then extended it toward the mother. A gesture of respect, of connection. The mother lowered her head to the ground again. The bow, the sign of respect. Then Hana walked to the shuttle. As she climbed aboard, she looked back one more time. The Titan family stood together in the fading light. Bold and Shy were playing. Little was curled up against its mother. And the mother was watching Hana leave, her intelligent eyes full of something that looked very much like understanding. The shuttle lifted off, leaving the valley behind. But the connection remained. A bond had been formed that day between two species. A bond that would change everything. Inside the shuttle, as Bora began asking questions, Hana closed her eyes and smiled. She had broken the rules, ignored the protocols, done everything she wasn't supposed to do, and she had saved 3 lives. Created understanding between species, proved that compassion wasn't weakness. The consortium would have questions. There would be investigations, consequences. The footage went viral within hours. Tay's recording of Little climbing up Hana's arms, the massive mother bowing her head in respect. The peaceful scene of human and Titans together. It spread across the Galactic Consortium network like wildfire, reaching billions of beings on thousands of worlds. Hana sat in the medical bay of the bright horizon while a doctor treated her injured leg. Through the window, she could see other ships arriving in orbit. News ships. Consortium investigation vessels. Everyone wanted to know what had happened on that jungle planet. "You're famous," Yuna said, sitting beside her bed. Or infamous, depending on who you ask. "I just did what anyone would do," Hana replied. "That's not true," Captain Bora said from the doorway. She walked in slowly, her expression serious. "Most people would have followed the protocols, would have let the cubs die rather than risk breaking the rules. What you did was remarkable and terrifying. The consortium is in chaos right now. Are they going to arrest me?" Bora smiled slightly. "They're trying to decide. Half of them want to give you a medal. The other half want to charge you with protocol violations. But the public response has been overwhelming. Beings from across the galaxy are calling you a hero." Hana looked down at her hands. She remembered how Little had felt, warm and trusting on her shoulder. How the mother had looked at her with understanding in her eyes. "I'm not a hero. I just couldn't let them die." "That's exactly what makes you a hero," Tay said, entering with a data pad. "Look at this. Messages from across the galaxy. The Kalari Collective wants to study human empathy patterns. The Venlathi Empire is proposing new first contact protocols based on what you did. Even the Thraxi Dominion is reconsidering their stance on humans. The Thraxi? Hana was surprised. The Thraxi were the most conservative species in the consortium, strict about rules and protocols. They had always viewed humans as too emotional, too reckless. Look at this message, Tay showed her the pad. It's from High Commander Vrex himself. Hana read the message. Her eyes widened. The Thraxi commander had written that while he still believed in protocols, he could not deny the outcome. A species had been understood. Lives had been saved. Peace had been achieved. Perhaps, he wrote, there was wisdom in the human approach after all. This is incredible, Hana breathed. Over the next weeks, the situation continued to develop. Scientists returned to Verath 7 to study the Titans more carefully. What they discovered amazed everyone. The Titans were not just intelligent animals. They were on the verge of sapience. They had complex language. They used tools. They taught their young. They had culture. The mother that Hana had encountered became known to the researchers. She was the matriarch of a large pack, and she had done something unprecedented. She had told her pack about the human who saved her cubs. Other Titans began approaching human researchers peacefully, showing none of the aggression that dangerous megafauna usually displayed. It was as if the mother had taught them that humans could be trusted. 6 months after the incident, Hana received a formal invitation. The Galactic Consortium wanted her to speak at their annual summit. She would address representatives from every member species about what had happened. Standing before the assembled delegates was the most terrifying thing Hana had ever done. More terrifying than the earthquake. More terrifying than facing the Titan Mother. These beings would decide humanity's future in the galaxy. She told them her story simply, honestly. She didn't try to justify breaking the protocols. She just explained why she had made the choice she made. I'm a scientist, she said. I was taught to observe without interfering, to follow the rules. But I'm also human, and being human means sometimes choosing compassion over caution. It means seeing a child in danger and helping, even if that child is a different species, even if it's dangerous, even if it breaks the rules. She paused, looking at the assembled delegates. The protocols exist to protect us. I understand that. People have died because humans tried to help creatures that couldn't be helped. But the protocols also assume that kindness is always dangerous, that empathy is always foolish. And I don't believe that's true. She brought up the footage on the main screen, Little climbing her arms, the mother bowing. This mother understood what I had done. She understood that I meant no harm, that I had protected her children, and she responded with respect. With gratitude, with trust. Humans have a saying, Hana continued. We say that a mother's love transcends everything. Species, language, distance. I think that's true for more than just humans. I think all species that care for their young understand that fundamental bond. And when we act from that place of protecting children, of preserving life, other species recognize it. A Quillari delegate stood up. But what if the mother had attacked? What if your empathy had led to your death? Hana met the delegate's multifaceted eyes. Then I would have died doing something I believed was right. But I didn't die. Neither did the cubs. And now we have a peaceful relationship with a potentially sapient species. Would that have happened if I had followed the protocols? If I had let the cubs die? Silence filled the chamber. No one could answer that question. Finally, an old Thraxi delegate stood. Commander Vrex himself. His scales were gray with age, his voice rough. For many years, I believed humans were too emotional, too willing to break rules, too dangerous to fully trust. I watched them risk everything for creatures they barely knew. I thought it was foolishness. He paused, looking at the footage still displayed on the screen. But this has made me reconsider. Perhaps what I saw as emotional weakness is actually a different kind of strength. The strength to be gentle when being harsh would be easier. The courage to show kindness when cruelty would be safer. He turned to Hana. You risked your life for 3 alien cubs. You broke our most sacred protocols. And because of that, we now have a chance at peaceful relations with a new species. Your foolishness, Dr. Kim, has proven to be wisdom. The chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates argued and debated. But slowly, a consensus emerged. The protocols needed to change. Not to be abandoned, but to be adapted. To include room for judgment. For compassion. For the uniquely human ability to connect across species lines. The vote came 3 days later. Humanity would be granted full membership in the Galactic Consortium. not despite their emotional nature, but because of it. And new protocols would be written, protocols that balanced safety with compassion. They called it the Kim Doctrine, the idea that when facing potentially sapient species, compassion should be considered alongside caution, that sometimes the risk of reaching out was worth taking. Hana returned to Varath 7 with an official expedition. This time there were no protocols telling her to stay away. This time, her mission was to build a relationship with the Titans. The shuttle landed in the same river valley where she had sheltered with the cubs. It had been 6 months. She wondered if they would remember her. She didn't have to wonder long. As she stepped off the shuttle, she heard a familiar sound. High-pitched chirps. 3 shapes bounded across the clearing toward her. Bold was twice as big now, almost the size of an adult. Shy had grown too, sleek and strong. And Little, no longer so little, ran toward her without any sign of a limp. The wound had healed completely. They swarmed around her, making happy sounds. Little still tried to climb up to her shoulder, though it was too big now. Hana laughed and hugged the young Titan, tears streaming down her face. Then the mother appeared, the matriarch. She was impressive as ever, powerful and intelligent. She approached slowly, her eyes locked on Hana. Hana put her hand over her heart, then extended it toward the mother. Their gesture of respect. The mother lowered her head to the ground. But this time she did something more. She made a deep, complex sound, a vocalization that the translators had been working on understanding. The linguists believed it meant something like friend who protects cubs. It was a name. The Titans had given Hana a name in their language. Over the following months, the relationship between humans and Titans grew. The Titans showed humans their culture, their tools, their art, patterns drawn in the sand that told stories, their history, passed down through songs, and the humans shared their knowledge in return. Medical care for sick cubs, new food sources, technology that could help the Titans develop faster. It was a partnership, a friendship, built on the foundation of one human's choice to show compassion when the rules said not to. News of the success spread across the galaxy. Other species began reconsidering their first contact protocols. Ships started carrying not just soldiers and scientists, but empathy specialists, beings trained to understand and connect across species lines. Many of them were human. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as the strongest warriors, not as the smartest scientists, but as the species that could bridge divides, that could see the common ground between different forms of life, that could turn enemies into friends through simple acts of kindness. One evening, Hana sat by the river with Little resting beside her. The young Titan was full-grown now, powerful and graceful, but it still liked to sit with Hana, just like the old days. Yuna joined them, sitting on Hana's other side. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Breaking the protocols?" Hana looked at Little, at the peaceful valley, at the stars appearing in the